Hello, and welcome to Virtual Learning Hub's presentation on communication. My name is Jasmine, and today we're going to be going through, as mentioned, communication. So, the use of communication, what is, if I would say, communication? Communication is what happens with individuals on a day to day activities, needs, preferences, and their wishes. It also takes place with individuals, families, and friends that to gather background, care needs, and support requirements. With care practitioners, we use it in our everyday practice, as mentioned, when communicating with our team members or colleagues, with managers in supervisions, also care reviews, meetings, and advocacy purposes when liaising with individual preferences. The purpose of communication is to provide information, as mentioned before, gathering the needs and the preference and care support. Also, to form and build and maintain relationships, such as with individual carers, colleagues, professionals. Also, used to express feelings or concerns that may arise. Guidance communication is used to provide guidance in relation to supporting individuals with making risks or making informed choices and decisions by providing reassurance to show empathy towards an individual who's experienced a recent bereavement, socializing, such as to encourage positive interactions and relationships between individuals and others. We use communication to ask questions when for example, when a care practitioner is clarifying how to communicate with an individual or to promote inclusion. We use it also to show respect when a care practitioner is communicating with an individual family in relation to their cultural preferences. So, as your role as a care professional, these are some of just the areas to remember how we use communication effectively. In adjacent, we use it to empower, so that meaning to enable an individual to lead their care and support review meetings, to build self esteem, to encourage an individual to feel more confident in themselves, such as when meeting new people, and to enable choice, in which we support an individual to review the range of options available to them. We use it to interact with individuals, and we also use it to support, and as mentioned prior, as in team or partnership working, for example, to enable care practitioners from different agencies and services to work together as one team to enable partnership working between those individuals. Now, communication methods. So, how do we communicate physically? So, the first step would be verbal. So we can use verbal communication, which is predominantly used. We use it making use of our language and our tone and the pace in which we're speaking. Non-verbal communication, which is signs and symbols and objects of reference, such as British Sign Language, alternative or augmentative communication methods such as Makaton. We use written communication, which can be formal, informal, with the use of correct vocabulary, spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Electronic, which can be formal or informal. We can use text or emails. And then also, communications consist of communication aids. So these can be items such as communication boards and books, objects of reference and symbols that have pictures, calendars, and social stories and books. Advocacy, as mentioned before, is when someone supports an individual with their communication and expresses their wishes on their behalf. So, as you can see, there are different ways in which we communicate and different methods that we use. But remembering that effective communication is a two-way process. You've got the message which is sent, then received and understood. Then someone responds, then a message is sent and received and then understood. We use the send a receiver message and then a minimum of transmission. So that's the minimum of transmission is that the level and the pace in which the information is being received. Communication may be verbal, as mentioned before. It can be visible, meaning visual, via a letter or a diagram. So non-verbal communication is when we use our body language. This could be through our posture, it could be through our appearance, it could be through head movements, hand movements, eye movements, facial expressions, body contact, closeness, and sound. Effective communication can lead to individuals feeling respected, valued, safe, and secure. For example, a support worker who finds out how a child will be with a learning disability prefers to communicate and uses this method to assist with their day-to-day care and support needs, such as eating and drinking, playing, making friends, and completing tasks. Effective communication can lead to individuals, families, and friends feeling listened to, involved, and included in the care and support being provided for them. For example, if visiting a GP, you will spend time with that individual, and the GP will take the time to find out about what type of support they provide at home to the relative who, for instance, may have dementia. Effective communication can lead to high quality team working amongst care practitioners, which involves the sharing of accurate information, ideas, and best practice. For instance, I've put here a support worker who shares information in relation to how they communicate with an individual who has autism. That enables the rest of the team to use this as the base of positive interactions with the individual. Effective communication between managers and other practitioners can lead to the development of care and support that is flexible and focused on the individual's unique needs. For example, should I say, I've put here you could be a health and social care provider meeting to discuss how they can work together to meet an individual's needs in relation to to their difficulties they may have in regard to communication, eating, drinking, and swallowing. Ineffective communication is when we use communication methods that are not the individual's preferred communication method, which can lead to misunderstandings. For example, if an individual who has a learning disability thinks that their views or concerns are not being taken seriously, they may become frustrated, anxious, or withdrawn from interactions with care practitioners and others. So, the impact of communication. Ineffective communication, such as failure to observe the agreed ways of working when communicating and writing with individuals or families, can lead to a sense of insecurity. Now we're going to look at some theories. We're going to look at two different theories here, just to give you some context. So, the purpose of the communication theory is to help you as a care practitioner understand the communication process and to help you develop effective communication practices. So, first, we're going to look at Michael Argyle's theory, which explains that communication works in a cycle. In Argyle's theory, there are 6 stages that have to occur for effective communication. The first is the idea is formed. Secondly, the message is coded. Third, the message is sent. The message is received. The message is then decoded. And then finally, the message is understood. With the stages of communication, as mentioned, we said the idea is begins at the start. And then you have the stage two, where the message is decoded, well, is coded, should I say. So the message is to be communicated through the thought. Thirdly, the message is sent. So the message to be communicated is sent to the individual. This could be in different methods, such as language, it could be in written format. The stage, so the message is received and the message is communicated once received. The fifth is the message is decoded, so the message received is made sense of and is able to be interpreted. The stage six is the message is understood, the message is communicated and understood. So, for instance, I've put here a care practitioner understands that an individual is hungry and provides them with the necessary support to choose what they want to eat. The second theorist is Bruce Tuckman, published his forming, storming, norming, and performing model in 1965. In the 1970s, Tuckman added a fifth stage to his model, which is adjourning. His model helps to explain the stages and groups of teams and what they go through when they communicate and interact. We're going to look at a short video, and hopefully this will give you further clarity.
Have you ever wondered how a team comes together? For most teams, they don't just happen. Today, we're going to learn about the five-stage model of team building and the role of time in how teams are formed. The five-stage model is the classic model of team building, and as the name suggests, includes five stages: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. In the forming stage, team members may experience a great deal of stress and anxiety due to uncertainty about the other team members and their roles. First interactions can be cautious and tentative as team members feel each other out. In this stage, a charter can be helpful to establish ground rules and clarify the mission. A charter is simply a formal agreement that explicitly states the team's overall purpose and lays out the expectations and behaviors for each team member. It can be helpful in establishing rules for things like required attendance at meetings. Charters can reduce misunderstandings and serve as a regulatory device because any team member that violates the agreed upon norms can be reminded of the group's commitments. As the team interacts and begins work, the second stage, storming, begins. In this stage, conflicts often emerge about the goals and contributions of team members. There may also be challenges to the leader of the group. In this stage, leaders should openly address conflict and emphasize the team's purpose and ground rules as established in the charter. At the end of this stage, the question of who will lead the team is resolved, and a team hierarchy or pecking order may have been established. However, severe enough disagreements during the storming phase can sometimes result in abandonment by individual team members or dissolution of the team altogether. Assuming the team does not dissolve during storming, the team building process then moves into the third stage called norming. In this stage, the team members form close relationships and a cohesive unit develops. Norms, or unwritten rules for what is acceptable, also take shape during this stage. For example, a team member that is regularly absent from meetings without any consequences may result in other members believing that such behavior is acceptable as well. Leaders should address any such problems directly and constructively, reminding members of the ground rules that they agreed to. Once team norms are established, the team should enter the fourth stage, performing. This phase is simply when the team begins focusing less on building relationships and more on actually achieving their team goals. For permanent teams that do not adjourn, such as work groups, this is the last phase in team building. Team members should make a point to celebrate successes and achievements along the way to achieving the team's overall goals. For teams that are temporary or have just one or two specific goals to accomplish, the fifth and final stage, adjourning, occurs. In the adjourning phase, the team finalizes their work and disbands. In this phase, it is recommended that team leaders arrange a celebration to reward members for having achieved their overall purpose. While the five-stage team-building model suggests that teams flow smoothly through the phases, this is not always the case. Conflict and unresolved violations of norms can often run the risk of having the team adjourn at any stage in the process. Also, teams that have a clear deadline, such as student project groups, do not follow the typical stages of development. Instead, they experience a process that is called punctuated equilibrium. This simply means that the team is initially active while goals are being discussed, and then very little work takes place until about halfway through the time period, when a flurry of activity occurs and team members scramble to reach their goals on time. This can be avoided if a team leader sets early